Paolo grew up in the quiet town of Bella Vista, a place where time seemed to pass more slowly and people knew each other by name. As a child, he spent much of his free time on the farm of his uncle Franco, a man who for him represented wisdom and strength. Before continuing, subscribe to our channel and activate the bell. Franco was not only a loving uncle, but also a successful former farmer who, with years of hard work and dedication, had transformed his farm into one of the most prosperous in the region. Everyone in town respected him not only for his financial successes, but also for his great generosity and willingness to help anyone in need. His doors were always open to friends and neighbors, and many times he had gone out of his way to provide help to families in need. For Paolo, Franco was not only a father figure, but also a role model. Since he was a child, he had spent his summers on his uncle's farm, together with his brothers. Every day was an adventure. He learned how to take care of the animals, harvest the fruits of the earth, and work hard, but always with a smile. Those days were full of laughter, stories, and teachings that Paolo would carry with him throughout his life. Family gatherings were frequent in Franco's house. Everyone gathered around a large wooden table, where there was always food, wine, and stories. Franco loved to talk about how, as a young man, he started with a small plot of land and how, with time and effort, he managed to build his business. But most of all, he loved to share the life lessons he learned along the way: respect, honesty, and the importance of never giving up, even in the face of difficulty. Paolo's father, Andrea, married to Franco's sister, was a businessman who, while deeply respecting his brother-in-law, had always believed that success had to be built with one's own personal commitment. Andrea had always encouraged his children to follow their passions and work hard to achieve their dreams without ever depending on family resources. Although their life was simple, Paolo's family did not know poverty. They lived in a beautiful house in Bella Vista and led a quiet life, but always in the name of humility. Paolo, now 24, was studying finance at university, but to cover his university expenses, he worked in a small cafe in the center of town. Paolo dreamed of following in his uncle Franco's footsteps, not so much in farming, but in building something of his own, a successful future based on hard work and integrity. He loved his job at the cafe, where he learned the value of service, patience, and respect for his customers, but he knew it was just a step toward his bigger goals. One day, while he was working during a particularly busy shift, Cesare, the manager of one of the most important banks in the city, entered the place. Cesare was known throughout the country for his surly character and his haughty attitude. He had a reputation as a powerful and stern man who often treated others with contempt. That morning, the cafe was full of customers waiting their turn. Cesare, visibly annoyed by the wait, tried to skip the line to be served before the others. Paolo, always polite and respectful, stopped him and politely told him that he would have to wait his turn, like all the other customers. Cesare, irritated by this refusal, replied arrogantly, "I am the director of the most important bank in Bella Vista. I expect to be served immediately." Paolo, keeping calm, kindly repeated that he should wait his turn, like everyone else. This response infuriated Cesare. Feeling offended, he left the place shouting, "I'll show you who I am." But his reaction did not stop there. Once outside, Cesare kicked a garbage can, spilling its contents onto the street. The customers inside the cafe, shocked by his behavior, looked at him with disapproval. One of the customers, tired of seeing Cesare behave so arrogantly, came out of the place and grabbed him by the arm, forcing him to go back and pick up the rubbish he had scattered. Cesare, visibly humiliated, obeyed and, with anger in his eyes, left the place for good, cursing Paolo and blaming him for everything that had happened. Paolo, worried about the consequences that the episode could have on his job, confided in his Uncle Franco that same evening. He knew that his work at the cafe was essential to cover his university expenses, and he feared that Cesare might use his power to get him fired. Franco, listening to Paolo's story, did not seem at all worried. Knowing Cesare's arrogant nature, he reassured Paolo that he had done the right thing. "You must never bow down to arrogant people, Paolo," his uncle told him. "You have shown respect and dignity, and that is what matters." The next day, Franco decided to teach that arrogant man a lesson. He took a portion of his savings and gave it to Paolo and his brothers, advising them to use the money wisely. It was not just financial help, but a symbol of the trust Franco had in his nephews. Shortly afterward, Franco and Paolo went to the bank together to deposit the money. When they entered, Cesare recognized them immediately. His attitude did not change. He greeted them with coldness and contempt, making them wait for a long time. Finally, Cesare left the room without even completing their service. Franco, always calm and imperturbable, stood up and, looking Cesare in the eye, said, "It seems to me that you do not know who we are. Well, in that case, I will withdraw all my money from this bank." Cesare, surprised and nervous, tried to remedy the situation, but by then it was too late. Franco was determined and closed all his prosperous accounts. The next day, the news that Franco had withdrawn all his funds from the bank spread rapidly throughout Bella Vista. Many citizens praised his gesture, considering it a sign of justice against Cesare's arrogance. The story became the main topic of discussion in the town. In the meantime, Cesare was summoned by the bank's general manager to explain what had happened. "Do you want to explain to me why Mr. Franco Rossi withdrew all his funds and closed the accounts of his agricultural company?" asked the manager. Cesare, visibly worried, tried to justify himself, but the damage was already done. A few days later, Caesar was fired. His arrogance and disrespectful behavior had cost him his job. When news of his dismissal spread, many in the city greeted the event with relief, happy to be rid of such an unpleasant man. Paolo, later telling his Uncle Franco what had happened, received a valuable lesson. "Remember, Paolo," he told him, "in life you will meet many people who do not understand the value of respect, but you, as you did that day, must always maintain your dignity. This is the most important lesson we can learn." Did you like this story? Leave a comment below. Thanks for watching the video till the end, and see you next story.